Hello, 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 and welcome to the Are You Ready to Mingle podcast. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Robin Raquel, and I am your relationship coach. I teach single women how to date purposefully using my Mingle method. I just want to tell you just a little bit about myself. It's been a crazy 2 years. I remember not too long ago, I was single for about 8 years, and I realized that I needed to make some changes. And after a period of time, I began to change some of my dating habits, and I saw just different results. And from this, I created my Mingle method, which I teach inside of my master class. And I definitely invite you to learn more information. Once again, my name is Robin Raquel, and this is the Are You Ready to Mingle podcast. So thank you so much for joining me today. Today I have a special guest, and I want her to introduce herself so that she can say her name properly, number one, but also she is the best person to give the proper introduction to what she does, who she is, and a little bit of her background story. And we have a great topic in store today. We're going to talk a little bit about domestic violence because she is a domestic violence survivor. Say woohoo to that. and it's a problem and a topic that is just rampant in the community of women. We often suffer, and we hear women suffering in silence from domestic violence. And it's something that's not discovered and touched on enough, if you ask me, because I believe the more we educate ourselves, the more we can overcome some of these things that are plaguing our life as women, and also our love lives. A lot of these things stem from, upbringing and just things in our background. So it's always important to talk to women that have survived, because when they share their story, it can help others come out of their trial and tribulation. So no further ado, I'd like to introduce to you today Miss Survived, is what she calls herself on social media. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Good.
So my name is Sylvia.
Sylvia, yep.
Yeah, that's where the survived came from. I just added, the VIVED. So that's where the name came from. I was born in Zimbabwe, Harare. That's Southern Africa, in the late 60s. And then I migrated to the United Kingdom in the early 90s, where I met my current husband of 22 years. While I was in London, I earned diploma in nursing. Then in 2006, we moved to United States. That's where I am right now, where I furthered my education, earning a bachelor's degree in nursing and then a master's degree in nursing. I have an adult son and a teenage daughter. And last year I was blessed with my first grandbaby. Yes. Actually, he turned 14 months today. He was born on the 16th of July last year.
Okay, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So I am a certified sexual assault advocate. Okay. And also trained to provide services to domestic violence victims and their children. I also volunteer at Fort Bend Women's Center, our local women's shelter. I haven't been going there, like I normally go every other weekend, but because of the COVID-19, with all this social distancing, I haven't been there for a few months now. I also am the survivor, and like you mentioned, I also have my Instagram page where I talk about domestic violence, trying to encourage women to walk away from abuse, and also to recognize that they are domestic violence victims.
Wow.
So Yeah, I'm very passionate about, like you said, I am a domestic violence survivor as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important that we have people that advocate for those that are silent. Everybody doesn't have the courage to speak up, even when they're suffering, you know? So it's important that we
Right,
have those in the
right,
community like yourself that are fighting, that are not afraid, that, you know, have even been through it sometimes to help pull others out.
right. Definitely. You know, sharing our stories is very, very important.
Yes.
I know it takes a lot for somebody to share their story, you know, for different reasons, you know. Um, Sometimes you are scared of your abuser and just worrying about people's opinions of you
Yes.
after they find out that you are a domestic violence. And also people tend to blame the victims, like, you know, why can't you just leave? That statement alone is actually blaming someone, like, are you stupid? You know, if he's beating you up, just leave. Why would you stay with somebody who is abusing you? But there's more to just getting up and going. Unless if you have been a victim, yeah, it's hard for people to understand why victims don't leave.
Yeah.
So that's why yeah, I want to share my story, and hopefully I can ignite that thing in these women that says, you know what, if she did it, I can do it too.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, I truly appreciate what you bring to my social media page and feed and what I can see, because you're always very vivid and vibrant, and you're always talking about some domestic violence surviving and survival. So, you know, somebody's out there talking about it. That's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah. So today we talked a little bit yesterday about what we were going to talk about today, our topic, and we decided upon discussing how domestic violence and narcissism can be related, which, you know, it's so funny. We live our lives and we go forth, and sometimes we don't think of all of the things that we could be ignoring that could have prevented us from making the mistakes that we make. You know what I mean? Sometimes, particularly
Right.
now, right now, the climate is so that everybody knows what a narcissistic person is because they talk about it so much on social media. But when you put the two together, you're like, oh my goodness, you're right. They are connected.
Right.
You know, I could have avoided
Yeah.
this probably.
Right.
So,
It is very,
well,
very connected.
yeah. So if you want to dig in, I'm going to ask you a question and we'll kind of go from there. Um, do you think that domestic violence um, perpetrators are always narcissistic? Because we know narcissists are not always domestic violence perpetrators, but is it possible that domestic violence perpetrators are usually narcissists?
Yeah, I would say yes, they are usually narcissists because from the women that I talk to who reach out to me, you know, for advice or help, the pattern is, you know, it's exactly the same. It's as if these men, I know women can be abusers too. So when I say men, I normally talk to women who are being abused, and as I was abused by a man too. So,
Yeah.
you know, it just comes natural to me to say a man because that's my experiences with domestic violence, you know, through a man. So yeah, this is, they say the same thing. It's like very, very, very similar. It's as if they are from the same family, these men, with the same narcissist, you know, tendencies, and the behavior, the abuse is still the same. It might not be exactly the same. They might not physically punch them or hit them, but you know, there are different forms of abuse. You know, verbally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. There's always something that is very, very. They always say, "Oh, you know, it's like when they are telling you, you can actually think, oh my God, it happened to me. Oh my God, this is what he does. That's exactly what he was doing to me. So that's what I'm finding from talking to different women. So I say yes, most of the time they are.
Now, some of the research I was looking at online, it definitely seemed like the two were almost inherent, almost like they kind of go together. Like if he's a domestic abuse perpetrator, someone who commits domestic violence against another person, most likely he's narcissist. I don't even see how you might be able to separate those two from the domestic violence perspective.
Right.
So, but I looked up a few things about domestic violence, and I had a small bout of domestic violence in my own life, a relationship, but I couldn't say that I could speak from it from a place of like much experience. But what I would say is some of the things definitely ring a bell because I almost talked myself into staying in a relationship. I almost literally made excuses for this guy to stay with him. And I had it in my head like, wait a minute, this is all the things they teach you about in school, what to look out for. And I'm telling myself this, but I was still making excuses. But they mentioned a few things that are very common characteristics with domestic violence victims. And one of them was the victim often blames themselves. Would you say that that is true?
Yes, definitely. I'll give you an example. One day we went to a Christmas party with my ex-husband. Actually, I don't want to call him husband, ex-husband, because I don't think he deserves that word, husband. I always call him my ex-abuser because, like I said, he doesn't deserve it. Anyway, so he demanded that I accompany him to this Christmas party, his work Christmas party. And obviously I was reluctant to go because I knew that being in public places with him was just a recipe for disaster. But I had no choice. I had no voice. Whatever he said, I had to do it or else. So we went. Our cousin was babysitting our son. I think it must have been 18 months, maybe 15 months, somewhere there. So we dropped our son to my cousin's house. Then we went to this party. When we got there, he introduced me to his boss and his wife. Then we sat at a table of 8. There was 2 couples and us, so that's 6. Then there was 2 gentlemen, his co-workers. They didn't have partners. They were just 2 of them. So my ex kept on getting up, mixing and mingling with his co-workers, and he smoked as well. So he would go outside to smoke, then he'll come back and, he was just doing his own thing. And I was just sitting there, with a glass of, drinking some soda. So at one time he was gone for a long time. And I think the 2 guys felt sorry for me because I was just sitting there, not talking to anyone. So they asked me 2 questions. One of the guys said, so how old is your son now? And I told them. Then the second question was, so who is looking after your son while you're here? And I said, oh, my cousin. And they said, oh, okay. So what I didn't know is that my ex, from wherever he was in the room, it was a large room, like a ballroom. He saw me talking to this guy. And he started walking towards the table. Then I thought he was coming to join us, but he walked past the table, went to the dance floor. Then I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to the dance floor and dance with him. Because if there was one thing that we had in common was the love of music and dancing. As you know, you see all my videos. I love to dance. I love music. So I went to join him. And he turned his back towards me. Like when somebody doesn't want to dance with you, how they just turn around instead of facing you. So I knew at that moment, I knew that something was going down.
Yeah.
Something was wrong.
Yeah.
Then he started walking towards the exit. So I followed him. Then when we were outside, he was like, "What were you talking about to my coworkers?" And I was like, oh, I tried to explain, they asked me whatever, and this is what I said. And he said, you're not supposed to talk to men.
Mm.
You are a married woman. You're not supposed to be talking to men. So I could tell that he was dying, itching to punch me like he used to do all the time for any slight, anything. He would punch me for, beat me up for anything. So he lit his cigarette, just said 2 puffs, and then he put it out on my cheek. Then suddenly he started running off towards the parking lot. So I took my shoes off and I started running after him, but I couldn't catch up with him. He abandoned me. He just left me. He drove off, left me stranded. So now I was thinking, we were like 20 miles away from home. So now I was thinking, how am I going to get home? I mean, if a guy gives me a ride, that's going to be another problem, right? So then I thought, why don't I go to his boss and the wife, since, it's the wife and husband, and I asked them since he introduced me. So that's what I did. But they couldn't understand when they asked me, they said, where is, your husband? And I said, well, there was an emergency, so he had to go. Again, what I was doing at that moment, I was protecting him. I thought I was protecting myself, because I thought if I tell them exactly what happened, he's going to find out and I'm going to be in trouble. So to prevent that from happening, let me lie and say there was an emergency. So he had to go for to take care of whatever emergency. But they looked at each other like, if it is an emergency, wouldn't he take you, with him, his wife? But anyway, they didn't. They just said, okay, we'll come and get you. We know where you're sitting. So they dropped me home. I think it was after midnight. I didn't have keys to the house. So I knocked on the window of a bedroom window. And then he let me in through the back door. So as soon as I walked into the house, he grabbed I had my braids, braided, long braids. He just grabbed me by the braids and dragged me into the bedroom, all the way through the kitchen, dining room, into the bedroom.
Wow.
Then he locked the door. He banged my head twice on the wall, and that's all I remember. I must have passed out because when I woke up, I had a busted lip and I couldn't open my right eye because it was so swollen. And I had blood, all over my chest. I was wearing like a yellow, top. And so I knew that, obviously he continued to beat me up after I passed out. And he told me that it was because of me not following his rules. You're not supposed to talk to men. And he said, you make me do these things to you. If only you listened to me, this wouldn't have happened. And you know what? At that moment, I believed him. I blamed myself. I said, why didn't I just ignore these guys? I could have gotten up and go to the restroom. I could have done something. I actually apologized for speaking to these guys. With my black eye and my busted lip, I was apologizing to my abuser.
I believe it.
Yeah. And I thought, it's my fault. I mean, is it hard not to talk to men? You can just ignore them, right? You don't have to answer their questions. So I could have done it. That's what was going through my mind. That was the mindset. But because by this time, he had really, really groomed me into his little, I don't know, Muppet or whatever you want to call it. I was scared of him. I was scared to death of him. I was so scared that everything he said, whenever he called me names, I believed him. He called me stupid. Nobody will ever love you. You are lucky to have me as your husband. because he was a journalist, and journalism in my country in 86, 87, 88, it was a very prestigious, profession.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought, yeah, that makes sense. I am very privileged to be your
Okay.
wife. So, I'm lucky. So I should do as I'm told. I should listen to you. So for some time, I just blamed myself. Any
Wow.
little mistake, and even if I look at somebody, I'll be like, why did I look at him? Why didn't I just, close
Do you
my eyes or something?
do you find the other women that you work with, they do the same?
Oh, yes. They'll like their partners because they think they are protecting themselves. And I know that they're actually at that point where they believe what the partner says about them. They actually believe it. I mean, it's sad, but it's true.
It's
You
sad, but it's
actually
true.
believe that.
The
Yeah,
things that ring familiar to me was when I went through, it was that I would stay possibly because of convenience. Because, when you're by yourself, you struggle a little bit more. But when you have a partner, it's a little
right.
bit easier. So convenience. But then also some women stay because they're fearful. They're afraid of the person. He's going to hurt them. He's going to do all the things he said he promised he would do.
Right. True. There's a lot of reasons why victims stay. You, as for me, I stayed initially because I didn't have a job that time.
Convenience.
So I thought of yeah, I was like, if I leave, how am I gonna look after myself and the baby?
Yes.
Two, right. And secondly, I thought my family, my friends, they're gonna think that I'm a failure. I failed.
Yes.
I didn't want people to look at me and say, oh, she's divorced already. She's only 19, 20, and she's already divorced.
Yep.
Thirdly, I didn't want him to, because he told me that if I were to ever leave him, I was not gonna see my son ever again.
Mm,
That's another,
right.
thing they use to stop you from leaving. So I didn't. Obviously, I wanted to be with my son. So that was another thing, and just because I loved him, as simple as I loved him, and I thought he was going to change.
Wow.
So I was giving him time. You kept on. That's why you end up staying there for 20
The
years,
longer. Yeah.
because you keep thinking that he's gonna change.
Yes.
And they actually make you think that
They
they're gonna
might.
change because every time they beat you up, this is what narcissists do. Every time they beat you up, they'll come back and say, "Sorry, babe, I don't know what got into me. I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
You make me do these things. I really don't
Yeah.
wanna. Do you think I wanna hate you? I love you, babe.
Yeah.
They can even take you for shopping or whatever. That reverses your mind, and you
Yeah.
think, oh, you know what?
He's not so
Maybe
bad.
it'll change."
He's not so
Yeah,
bad.
it's not so bad after all. Exactly.
There was this one aspect of it that they mentioned in the article I was reading. It's called Psychology Today, if anybody's interested in looking it up, called trauma bonding, where you actually create a bond internally and mentally with your abuser and with your situation. And what they talked about was that the bond is stronger among those who were raised in households that their parents had domestic violence. That was one. The other one was that the woman stays because it's more hard to get free from her abuser. So the longer you stay, it becomes more difficult to get away from your abuser. But
The
I was
harder
like,
it is to live, the harder.
yeah, when I was reading that, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's like terrible, because you never think of a bond to the situation. You just think of I mean, I think really your mindset is so limited in those moments that you're not thinking clearly, and you're really only thinking of surviving that day. You know what I mean? You're not really planning for the future. You don't
Mhm.
have a whole bunch of future goals mapped out in business. You don't have the freedom for those things. You're just thinking of surviving in that moment.
Right. It's funny that you said the other reason why this trauma bonding is very effective, I would say,
Common, yeah.
in people who experienced maybe domestic, because I did I started witnessing domestic violence at the tender age of 7 when my father married a second wife, and he was abusing my mother physically, emotionally, verbally, all the time. And then I married into domestic violence. I was only 18, going on to 19. So actually, when he started, displaying these abusive behaviors and ending up, actually physically beating me up, I thought it was normal because I was reflecting on my mother and father's relationship.
That makes
So
sense.
I thought, well, I guess it's normal. That's what husbands
do.
They
Yeah.
beat their wives up. And I actually thought that, he doesn't want me to talk to people because he loves me. He just wants me to be, he's woman. That's it. Don't look at men. Don't talk to men. It's just me. Just look at me. I thought, oh, he loves me. He's madly in love with me. So that's okay. Because that's what I was used to. Seeing my father beating up my mother. So,
that makes a lot of sense.
Thinking about it now, it's like, no, that was not normal for my father to beat up. My father was an abuser too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's such a crazy place you are meant. I mean, I don't want to say crazy because it sounds offensive when I say crazy, but when you really think about it, it's so not natural and so not normal to be in those circumstances. But when you're in it, it doesn't register. It doesn't even register that your situation is not normal or unnatural.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's so hard to understand domestic violence victims. A good example is, that story of Jessie Duggar, the girl that was abducted she was 11. Then she was found when she was 32 and she had 2 kids. It was on the news for some time. She was found.
What happened? Was it a kidnapper or?
Well, yeah, she was kidnapped by a husband and wife. And she lived in the backyard of this the couple. And obviously the husband was, having sex with her. She ended up getting pregnant. I think she had a first child when she was 15. Then another one. She has 2 daughters. Do you remember that story?
I do remember.
Do you know she used to go to Walmart to do food shopping with the husband and his wife?
Really?
And she never said, hey, I was kidnapped, help. No.
You seen her at Walmart?
They would do shoot. I mean, wherever they live, whatever state they are. But she used to go there. Now, I read your book. She wrote a memoir about a story.
Oh, did
that
she?
She used to go
serious?
shopping. They used to go in public places, but she never said anything. So going back again to trauma bonding you were talking about, she could have told somebody that, what, this man kidnapped me with his wife 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but she was there for, I think, 17 years.
Yeah. It became her normal.
Yeah, it becomes your normal.
Became her normal. Yep. So yeah. I did find some information about narcissists, and there was this one idea or ideology that talked about a drama triangle, and they gave the narcissist 3 different types of personalities. So I just want to give the women that do listen some things that they can look out for when it comes to abuse and narcissistic behaviors and just that personality type. They had 3 different personalities. One was the abuser. The abuser, or the persecutor is what they called it. He always knows what's best. He blames others. So like he never takes personal responsibility. And then also he bullies others to get his way. And I said, well, that makes a lot of sense, because a narcissistic person kind of puts themselves up on a pedestal. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything kind
Yeah.
of revolves around them. So it makes sense, because when you see a person, you never think, is this person narcissistic? You know, I know some things don't sound right, but you never, it really never occurs to you to say, is this person narcissistic? Because the behaviors can be similar but different, or they can be packaged in a different, you know, bow. You know what I'm saying? Like, they may come in one
Right.
angle with one person, they may come packaged in another angle, but there's still the same underlying activities and behaviors going on, and mindset behaviors going on.
Right. That is very true. Like my experience with my ex, when we first met, he was charming. He was very, very nice to me. Because my mother, like I said, my mother was abused. Eventually she left. I was only 14 years old when she left, and that's when I needed her most. So when I was 18, that's when I met my abuser, and I didn't feel loved at home, you know, because I was living, my stepmother was not very nice. She was nasty. So when I met him, he gave me like full attention. You know, he complimented me.
Yeah.
He told me how cute I was. He would buy me flowers because he was 7 years older than me. So he was already working. I just finished high school. He was already working, so he could buy me things. You know, he was very nice. And to me, it was like he filled that gap that was missing.
Wow.
And also, to be honest, I was attracted to him. Like I told you earlier, he was a journalist. That was attractive as well. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, he's a journalist. You know, he
Yeah.
looked good. You
Yeah.
know, he's showering me with presents. He was nice, very nice.
I
But
believe it.
then, yeah, then when I got pregnant because he forced himself onto me. At that moment, I didn't know that was rape. He actually raped me.
Yeah.
But I actually, to be honest with you, I only found out that I was raped when I was in London, years later after we divorced, that, oh, so he raped me, you know. But anyway, because I got pregnant, I was a virgin when he raped me, and I got pregnant first time. So he went and talked to his brothers, and they said, you know, if you love her, then if you want to get married, we'll help you, support you, whatever. So he took full responsibility, and we got, you know, that's how we got married. But my father didn't like him because the first time he met him, my father said, there's something about him I don't like, but I
Mm.
can't pinpoint it. And you know, when you think about it now, it's like, oh,
Your
so
dad knew.
abusers, yeah, he knew that, oh, he's just like me. And he didn't like that because now it's his daughter, right?
Yes.
So one thing that was a good telltale sign, our wedding, we had a white wedding. He has a brother who was very wealthy. So the brother kind of paid for everything for our wedding. And I was not involved in our wedding plans. You know, I didn't even pick my dress. His sister-in-law picked the dress for me. So that was the flag right there, red flag. That, you know, you didn't even like say, well, that's my wife, future wife. At least let her pick a dress. He just
Yes.
went with whatever, with his family. You know, I didn't feel, I wasn't involved. Everything I was told
Wow.
what to wear. I didn't even want to wear, you know, they made me wear some like long, fingerless white silk gloves. I didn't
Yeah.
like them. And there was this pillow box hat, like a wedding hat. I had to put it on top of my, they held my hair, you know, done it really nice. But they insisted that I wore it because it was part of the wedding dress. You know, things like that. And I was telling him, no, I don't want this hat. But he was like, you know, so that was a red flag. Like he was very do as you're told, do this, do that, very controlling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know, yeah.
Ironically, it's funny because in the triangle, they have three different, they've segmented it. So the other two, this one is victim. So one is a persecutor. The other one plays victim. So it's a complete opposite. And you really, as a woman, I believe with women, we lead wrong. We lead with our emotions instead of thinking up here and really processing, who is this person in front of me? So for the narcissist who plays victim, his traits are, it's me against the world. So he believes it's him versus the world in life. He manipulates to accomplish his goals, and he never takes responsibility either. So he kind of passes the buck, is what we would say here. He passes the buck, kind of like, oh, this happened because you didn't allow me to do X, Y, and Z, or because you didn't take me to the store, or you didn't wake me up on time. The last one is the rescuer. The rescuer is just so interesting to see that. I mean, here they are 9 different qualities with 3 different personality types, but they all have the same end goal in their mindset. The rescuer, it says, does things for some goal or outcome. So he only does things to get something or to have a particular goal accomplished. And then it says, he surrounds himself by weaker people. So it's always people who are in need of something to make himself feel like, well, I helped, this person and I helped that person. And then the very last thing, which for me struck home, I thought it was so crazy. He has the good guy obsession. So he wants to look like the good guy to everyone. He does things to be called a good guy or to appear as a good person. Instead of just being a good person, he does things to appear as a good person.
Yes, true. Like I remember my ex-husband, he was, I just called him a husband, and my ex-abuser, he was outside. Oh my God, everybody loved him. Like he was so sweet, he was so nice. I remember that he was that when I started talking about it, people did not believe me. They were like, no way. He did what? He beat you up? I was like, yes, he does. That's not possible. So he did have some, those traits as well, being just like he was charming when I first met him. He was like that consistently with other people outside.
Yeah.
Because he didn't live with them, he couldn't control them. They didn't see the other side. They only saw the side that I saw first time when I met him. But for me, because I was now, he was able to control me, behind closed doors. He then flipped and showed me the other side.
That was a big one for me because I remember those conversations with my abuser saying, why don't you just be a good person? You're busy trying to do things to appear as a good person. It's easier just to be a good person. Like I would say that. It's easier just to be the good guy instead of pretending to be a good guy and pretending you have a good heart. That makes no sense to me. I just couldn't understand it. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. So yeah, that was powerful.
Yeah.
So would you say, I guess to wrap things all up, well, just to close out on your story, as far as your abuser goes, did he have some of all of these characteristics? Like he didn't necessarily fit into one more than the other? Or would you say he closely related to one, the persecutor, the victim, or the rescuer?
I would say the persecutor and a little bit of oh yeah, because numerous times he told me that the reason why he beat me up was because I wasn't following his rules and instructions, and I was making him beat me up. I remember the first beating, he actually apologized, bought me some flowers, and he said it will never happen again. He doesn't know. I guess he was possessed or something. Like he doesn't know why he beat me up. What happened? Like it just happened. I don't know what I was doing. That kind of thing. I was like, oh, okay. Then it kept on the big, yeah. He kept on doing the same thing over and over and over again, apologizing, beat me up, apologizing, beat me up, for a long time.
Yeah,
I think he has a little bit of everything.
I just had an epiphany. I really think that some of these abusers seek out their victims. They're looking for the one who's quiet, the one that doesn't know any better, the one who will, feed into them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. Because I think, being 7 years younger than him, I mean, he took advantage of all that.
Yes.
So he really knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I thank you for speaking to me today. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your project that you're working on, your book.
So actually 2 books. It's part 1 and part 2. So part 1 is a little bit of my childhood and how I met my abuser. Then part 2, I talk about from the moment that I decided to leave, when I left him until now. So the title of my books is called Better Out Than In. So it's part 1 and part 2, Better Out Than In. They are on Amazon. And I also have a Facebook group called Victim to Survivor, where I sometimes do lives, but most of the time I just share my videos that I do, like on TikTok, other videos that are, people send me. I also have an Instagram page where I'm very vocal about domestic abuse. I do it through videos. Because I can express myself better when I have music, So I found that, that's the best way to send my message, spread my message that way. So I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and on Facebook. I have a Twitter account, but I don't really tweet that much. I don't use it that much. I try to, but I keep forgetting to post something there. I'm like, oh, what's my password? And I can remember to get back in there. And also, yeah, I am open to people like inboxing me, whatever. If they have a question, I'm very open to that on Instagram or on Facebook. Like I said, it's Survived for Instagram and Victim to Survivor on Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel, which I should be more active there. I do post videos now and again, but I'm actually planning to start being more active on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's also called Victim to Survive.
Okay. Well, that sounds nice. I'll definitely be promoting your book. It's called Better In Than Out.
Yes.
Better In Than Out. Okay.
So
I'll definitely
it's on
put a link
Amazon.
for your book. Yep. I'll put a link for your information. And if you send me the link for your book, definitely I'll put the link out there of how people can either support you or, get in contact with you.
Right.
Well, good news. Just share 1 or 2 line. I know now you are remarried, of course, for some years. Just really briefly talk about how long you've been married now to your husband and just how that's been for you.
So I met my husband in London, and we've been married 22 years now.
Wow.
And this October will be 22 years.
Wow.
I had said I would never ever get married again. Then I met him. Then he convinced me to to say yes, which I did. But then I said I will never ever have kids ever again. Then 5 years later, I had one. I have my daughter now. She'll be 17 in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Then finally, both he had never married, he never had kids. So we do have a 17-year-old daughter. My son is from my first marriage. He just turned 34.
Okay.
He's the father of my grandbaby. Yeah, so I just want to say to everyone listening to this podcast, never lose hope.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it might take long, whatever, but you will meet somebody who will sweep you off your feet and treat you so good that you won't even believe that you were a victim of domestic violence. My husband is, since I've met him, he's never called me a name. I mean, I'm not saying we don't argue, we have disagreements and whatever, but we talk about it as adults, and he respects me as a human being. We are 50-50. There's no, oh, listen to me, do as you're told, or anything like that. So yeah, so never lose hope. There's somebody there somewhere. But for you to be able to connect to this person, you have to disconnect yourself from your abuser. That's the only way you can meet your Prince Charles on the other side. I had to go all the way to the United Kingdom from Africa to meet mine. But I'm not saying, you have to go to another country. I'm just saying you have to disconnect in order to connect.
You're funny. Well, I thank you once again for joining me today. I know you said you had to run, so I don't want to keep you any longer. I will definitely get your links for your book, and also your contact information for your Facebook page so that I can connect them to this podcast and this episode. So I thank you
Thanks
for
for
joining
having
me
me.
today. Yes, I really
You're welcome.
appreciate you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was so nice. I really appreciate her stopping through and talking about domestic violence and how it's connected to narcissism. I never linked the two before, but also I don't really know a lot about domestic violence. My interaction with domestic violence was very short, a very brief period in my life. It happened one time and I got my butt out of there, and I knew better for myself. I knew that it was going to be unhealthy for me, for my children, and for him as well. And so I was able to move on. So I encourage you, if you are listening, if you are a domestic violence victim, please get help. I mean, there's so many different resources out there, people that you can reach out to that want to help you, that are looking to help you. They're looking for you. They're looking to help you blossom into who that you are going to be. And so don't ever think that you're alone. Don't ever think that you got to do it all by yourself. And don't ever think that, this is the end. What the person is saying is true about you, because domestic violence abusers are often people who have a lot of insecurities and they try to inflict them upon you. So I encourage you to get the help that you need so that you can become who you desire to become. All right. So once again, I thank you for joining me today. It's time for me to do my Mingle Minute. My Mingle Minute. All right, so for this week's Mingle Minute, so I didn't actually, how should I say it? I didn't actually sit and think about what I should talk about for a Mingle Minute, but I will say this for this week. I'm in a lot of relationship groups, and I often see people talk about, is it too soon for me to do this with this guy, or is it, how soon should I do X, Y, and Z with this person, or or should I even consider doing this, and there's always an activity after this. So should I consider doing X, Y, and Z, or should I not? People always have questions in their spirit about when is the right time. And I want to tell you this. This is something that I teach in my masterclass. The right time for anything, you will know. You're going to know it's the right time. You're not going to have questions. There will be dialogue and conversations around the topic that will get you to a place that you feel comfortable, and you feel sure, and you feel okay. But if you are feeling, should I? Why would I? Is it too early? Is this something that I should or should not do? If you're questioning, then most likely you should be telling yourself, this is probably not right. This is probably not the right time. Or this particular situation is not where I need to be. But if you can go and do your whatever your thing you're questioning about, whatever it is, if you can do that comfortably and not feel like you sacrificed, compromised yourself in any particular way, or been shorted, you've been short-sighted, or you've been bombarded or bullied into it, whatever it is, you will feel comfortable about it when it's right. And I just want to leave you with that note, because that's like a question you see a lot. Should I this? Should that? Should this? Should that? I don't know if on a first date, if we should kiss, or I don't know if we should go here for a first date, or should he treat me, or whatever the case. Listen, you got to do what you feel comfortable with. And don't do anything until you have good dialogue and open communication with the person about the activity. Don't do it. If you're not sure, should you go, 50-50 on a date with someone for the bill, then don't do it. Don't go on a date. Don't do anything until you've had a conversation with that person and you know that you're doing the right thing. So that's my Mingle Minute for this week. I'm so thankful once again for my guest, Sylvia. I'm going to link her information to the actual episode on my page, my Facebook page. I'm going to link her information so that you can find her, and also the information about her book. So I want to share with you, of course, a scripture. I always like to do my scripture for the week, and I want to give you just a little bit of inspiration from the Word of God and what He says. And He talks about healing and sharing your testimony. So I want to give you a scripture concerning about testimony, because being able to speak your truth, being able to have a voice in your relationships, in your life with other people, and on your job, with even God, having a voice and having the courage to, to speak out is so important. And I know those of us who are loud, or who have a platform, or just, some people, we know that we are called to speak and to talk. It's easier for us. I'm in a position right now where I'm behind a microphone and a camera and whatever the case may be. And so, I'm putting myself out there, but not everyone has that courage, and not everyone is able to speak from a place of security, because it can be rough out there when you put yourself out there. People can reject you or make you feel bad or ashamed or whatever the case may be. And so it's important that we have we have a testimony. And so I'm just, that we share our testimony because there's so many blessings. The reason why you're kept quiet about your testimony and your story, the reason why you might internally feel that way is because the enemy, who I call the devil, wants to silence your voice because he knows that other people can get help. Other people can get healing from your testimony. And so I'm just going to take a moment to find the scripture because there's a scripture that says, all right. So what I want to share today is in the King James Version, James 5:16. So it's the book of James, chapter 5, verse 16. It says, confess your faults one to another and pray one for another, that you may be healed. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So in this, they're talking about how confessing your faults can equal to righteousness, and it can really, really help your prayer life. But not also will it help you. It says faults one to another, pray one for another, because you might get healed. So it's your testimony and sharing that will get you healing. And in the process, you'll help someone else out and help them get their healing. So I just want to share that today. I thank you so much. I hope that it encouraged you and it inspired you to share your story, to help someone else out by sharing your story, and to find the courage within yourself to find your voice. You know, if you're in a situation that you don't want to be in, abuse comes in many forms. Today we talked about domestic abuse, domestic violence abuse, but it comes in many forms. It can be spiritually, financially, just like Sylvia said. It can be mentally. It can be so many different ways. So, you know, feel the courage, the need to get your voice heard. All right. So I thank you for listening today to the Are You Ready to Mingle podcast? Yes. And I just want to run it by you for the masterclass that we are right now running our Blissful Blossom promotion 2020. Where I will send you a complimentary bouquet of fresh cut flowers to wherever you want me to send them. It could be your home office, it can be your work office, or it could be mom's house. I'll send them. But just for keeping and scheduling your Perfect Fit live coaching call with me. So get your Perfect Fit live coaching course on the books and schedule. Talk to yours truly. And after keeping your appointment, I will send you your own bouquet of flowers. Ladies, you know you like flowers. You know you enjoy flowers out there. So get your free flowers, get your complimentary flowers from Mingle Dating Elite, or Mingle Dating is what we are on Instagram. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Once again, thank you so much for joining me today. All right, y'all. Take care. Connect with me on social media. The masterclass has begun. It's in pre-launch phase. We're going to do the official launch date, the 30th of September, and I'm looking to work with you. I know that there's some women out there that feel stuck. They feel alone, feel like they're going to be single forever, feel like you'll never find your husband, feel like you kill all of your relationships with your bad habits. Listen, get at your girl, Robin Raquel. I got you. I got tips. I got techniques. I got advice to break you out of those poor and bad habits and to get you into your relationship goals. Take care. Bye.